Welcome back to the Real Triathlon Podcast. Lisa is newly married.
I am married, guys. Life is completely different, and I feel like a new woman, and I'm off the market, like officially.
Missed your chance, boys.
I know. Missed out. But it was a freaking awesome weekend. Nick was there. Leslie was there. Nicole was there. Mark was there.
Jackson didn't make it.
If I had known I was going to get injured, I would have for sure been there.
I could have told you. I'm just kidding.
But anyway.
But actually,
it looked like a great time on Instagram. Everyone was having a blast. Were they dancing up to your standards?
Yes, they were. We did have some, I won't take full credit for all the music. Steve loved his 90s hip hop thing going on. And one of my friends at the middle, after we did jump around and then we did another jump song, she's like, I'm so tired of jumping. There was a lot of jumping songs. So
Can you riddle me this? Why did we end on Colt 45?
I have no idea. It was not supposed to end on that. The song that we were supposed to end on was Pink Pony Club, but they played it at the beginning of the thing. And the DJ didn't get quite the memo even when we were announcing the bridal party back in, because they got all the pairs mixed up. And they were all like, when are we supposed to go? But anyways, so
something's always got to be slightly off, and then and nobody cares, and it's fine.
Yeah, and I didn't care.
It was all good. That's the best part about a wedding is you don't remember that stuff anyways because things work out. But the Colt 45 thing, I was like, this song is a bit of a different whole situation, especially since you can't even play most of it because it was all I mean, it's very vulgar. I can't even say it on the podcast.
45 and 2 zigzags.
No, not that. It was he banged this chick, banged her again, banged until she turned white or something. I don't know. It was just racially and sexually vulgar. I don't know. It was, but you can't say that. So it was all just 30 seconds of just scribbles and stuff. I was like, all right, guess we're dancing to this.
But yeah, I don't know. But another thing that was not frustrating is that we actually had dessert. We had cookies and brownies downstairs with where the food was served, and I don't think there was ever an announcement made that there was dessert. So we had so many cookies and brownies left over.
I ate them. I had 2.
Okay, amazing, good. At least a couple people had. And I walked downstairs. I was like, I need to take how many of these back? Anyways.
No, I mean, I was like, so where's I was scouting. I even went. So the whole triathlete table, everyone had their first round and everyone was having a good time. And I was like, I'm gonna go back downstairs and see if there's seconds. And then I came back with a little bit extra, and all the triathletes went back for seconds. I was like, all right.
Also, so they informed us at 7 p.m., let alone our wedding started at 4, that we were already almost out of alcohol. At 7 p.m. This is we still have 3 more hours of the night, and that's when people get the most wasted.
Wait,
yeah.
So it wasn't an open bar, it was
No, it was open. It was an open bar, but we had to buy that.
We're gonna not bring enough.
So we bought the alcohol and had it delivered there, and they serve it. But
okay.
I guess they were pouring triple shots instead of single shots. So everyone who ordered a rum and coke or a vodka soda, they were if the cup was this big, it was this much alcohol and a splash of something on top.
I can attest.
I was like, no shit, we ran out of alcohol. You guys are pouring so many drinks.
Yeah.
So
Amy got a rum and coke at the end there, and I was like, this is rum and very little coke.
I was like, oh. And then people took their shirts off when they were dancing at the end of the night.
There was 4 to 5 shirtless, sweaty men just in the pile, and I was like, oh, I got to watch from the crowd. What's happening? This is great.
I know, Nick, you should have taken your shirt off and been in there. Gotta one-up everyone.
You know why I could never do that? Because that's what everybody expects. And if I did that, they'd be like, oh, fucking course that guy's got to take his shirt off. No, that's not my vibe. I'll take it off on a swim. And when I take post-running shots.
Also, can we just take a moment for the new Zoot Elite bibs? Jackson, have you gotten to try them yet or not?
No,
yeah, I think so. Wait, what? No?
No, he hasn't.
No, you haven't. No, you haven't.
He's in Canada. He would know. He would have gotten charged duty on it or something. I'd have to pay for it.
The new Zoot Elite bibs are life changing. They have their like seamless at the
Oh,
bottoms with the leg
look at me.
gripper. They have like an updated chamois. The straps are super nice. Like, oh,
Oh
like
wait, so did we make Lisa happy with our kits, with our kit sponsor?
yes, we made Lisa
Oh,
happy.
Okay, okay, Nick. Can I get some Zoop sent to Garrick for 2 weeks from now or a week and a half from now, when Taylor's going to be there on his way to Louisville that I was supposed to be there, and then he could drive it back for me.
you have a code. You can order stuff whenever you want it, and you can deliver it wherever you want it to. So the answer is absolutely, and I hope it works out great.
You think it would come in time? What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Mine
Yeah.
came in like you can even use your code for shipping and get 2-day shipping.
Yeah, it's super. Like mine just did normal shipping. It came in like 5 days or something, maybe
All right,
4.
I'm doing it.
But you
Yeah.
need to order it like tonight because that's going to be sold out quickly.
Okay, I'll
Yeah,
order
they
it.
might already be gone.
Yeah.
I will, and also I'll need it because biking a lot again because I can't fucking run again.
Yeah,
All
can
right,
you
so
give us the update?
Yeah. Give us the pulmonary edema embolism of your whole body
Well,
update.
last week I gave a pretty good update, but it was before I got the MRI results. I think, wasn't it, Lisa?
Your volume
I
is
just
like
cut out at the wrong time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sorry,
we may
am
have
I
heard
back?
that. Yeah, I think
So
you're
Lisa,
back.
last week I hadn't gotten the MRI yet, right? The results.
Right.
Okay, so shortly after that podcast, I did, and there wasn't really anything that obviously bad on the MRI. It was like, oh, torn labrum, but you probably had that forever, no big deal. A little bit of bursal fluid in there, no big deal. Tiny bit of like the ortho guy described it as a pre-stress reaction in like the pelvis, somewhere where I wasn't getting any issues, like near this midline of the pelvis, like the left side of the pubis symphysis, right in the middle.
So it
And
wasn't
the
even on your
symptoms are in my like
sacrum.
leg. So no, it probably wasn't. And so it's like, but then I went through a whole hour long chat with the PT who like specializes with endurance athletes and stress injury, like literally like the guy to go to with this that Greg Harper referred me to, which is great. And he's like, this is just pointing at like a stress reaction, all these symptoms, the way when it comes on, when it like the things that cause it, the things that don't cause the pain. So, both guys said, let's just do 2 weeks off running and swim and bike to a level where there's zero pain or like maximum 1 out of 10 pain, which I've been doing basically zero pain. And then come back after 2 weeks, maybe try a ramp into like some reduced weight running and see where you're at. So not really definitive. But again, like it's weird because with Lionel's injury, it looked good when he had the symptoms. They went in the MRI, and the guy's like, "There's nothing here. It looks good." And then he took 6 weeks of no running or whatever, and then he went back, and it was worse. So I don't know. Maybe it was they're like maybe you're just getting pain before like the actual edema shows up on the MRI. So
I don't know. I
we'll
feel
see.
like MRIs are really affected by inflammation. Really, I've heard that, and I think like if you've really got a lot of inflammation around the area, it clouds a lot of the image. I think, and you can't really see it as much. That's why I do think that could have been a little bit of Lionel's stuff.
Maybe. I mean, you can see clearly like the bone, the inside of the bone, like everything.
Yeah.
It was 3 days after the race, so I don't think there was much going on, but we can put up a screenshot of the MRIs and see what people think. But the bone looks like pristine. It's like that's a bone. It's solid, not crazy looking.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I do. I mean, I do think that, like, yeah, but MRIs, any imaging is only as good as it gets. Like, I had a CT scan on my sacrum last year, which I think is when I crashed my bike and got CT scan right in the ER, and they showed no fracture, and then I got an MRI, and then it showed a fracture in my sacrum. But like the CT scan, I think is supposed to be better at picking up like those fractures of some sort. So I mean, I think that they're doing the right things though, is like actually like taking break and giving your body a chance to like heal, because there is something like wrong or something irritated. So like taking a step back. I mean, I don't know what else it would have been that would have given you a different, like, oh, you need to do this instead of rest type of thing. I mean, usually the answer is always rest,
Yeah, it was
especially
just
when it
weird.
comes
Like
to,
I go through a lot of niggles here and there, but I wasn't getting the feeling like it was something I could just work through, you know? Like it was
yeah,
just getting worse and worse. So I'm like, eh. But the good thing is I can bike hard now. Like I did a pretty solid workout yesterday, no pain. Swimming, I got down to some like, not hard, but some like tempo hundreds today with no pain. So I'm not limited anymore really in my swim and bike. So I took a week easy and now I'm gonna have a week of pretty solid just not running, and then hopefully the ramp back into running's fine and I can race Santa Cruz. But
yeah,
could have been a lot worse. I was like literally prepared for a pretty bad stress fracture and didn't happen. So I'm stoked on that.
yeah. That is
All
good.
right.
So,
On that note, side tangent, side quest. Here we go. We've got Race Ranger coming on for a really awesome episode. We're going to ask all the questions that I think we've been sitting on for a while. So let's get James in here. We're going to start into the guts of the episode, and we can tidy up any of your sob story at the end there, Jackson, if that's okay. But James, we do have a lot to talk about. I think if we have a sequence of events here, give us a bit of an update on the last year with Race Ranger. This year, 2025. Because, I mean, you've had a lot. You did New Zealand with age group athletes using Race Ranger. I'd love to know the feedback there. I want to know about statistics of what you've data mined from age groupers to pros and feedback. So let's start with those two things. How was the opening of the year going, and then just jump into that New Zealand race?
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I haven't been operating on much sleep lately, so if I lose my train of thought, I need a bit of a slap. Just bear with me. But yeah, I'll try and slow down my rate of speaking as well, because I listen to these things normally at like 2.4 times speed I'm up to now. So I got to slow myself down when I'm actually on them. But yeah, it is pretty savage. Exactly. Right. So quick update. So for people who don't know what Race Ranger is, most people will, but we're the flashy light system on the back of the pros' bikes that you might see on TV, measuring the draft distance, and 3 different coloured lights to tell the athletes how close they are, and the officials can see those as well, and they sort of take out the guesswork of guessing the draft distance. So that's what we're doing, and yeah, we've been operating at pro races since early 2023. And did a season of about 10 races there. Last year we upped that to about 35, and including the Paris Paralympics, the T100, Ironman Pro Series, Challenge Roth, all the sort of big events down to a certain point. This year we've kept the number of events that we're operating at fairly similar. We're at 37 this year, and the main focus is on working on the next version of what the system can do. So we're getting close to rolling features out for that, which is really exciting. So I guess, yeah, this year has been about, we did an age group trial. So we've got 300 sets of devices that travel the world in boxes of 40 at the moment, and different operators operate them at races, depending on how many are needed for each one. And that's a complex operation in its own right. But in the summer, our summer here, so your winter, we get them all back here, sort of to service them and just to make sure they're all running well for the next season. And we used them all at one event at Challenge Wanaka, where I live. So we had 280 odd athletes using the system there, out of about, I think, 320 in the race. So that went really well, and it was a good exercise for us, just in scaling things up and seeing we sort of identified a whole lot of the pain points that would make it tough to go from what we did on pros to the thousands, but just stepping up from 100 to 300, a few of those just got amplified, and we're like, yeah, we really need to find an easier way of doing that or eliminate XYZ. So yeah, part of that has been definitely the athletes putting them on themselves. So we've moved to doing that at all the Pro Series races wherever we can this year. So we distribute the units into the race packs or at the briefing, depending on the event, and that's how this will work eventually when we get to age group. So that's been going fairly well. But yeah, the feedback was really good, overwhelmingly pretty positive. I didn't have to chase any athletes after the race, which is a complete change from the pros. Pros can be quite hard to track down,
No.
but when we bumped it up to 280, they were all back straight away. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, and some good feedback, and we're looking at what to do next in that area as well.
What?
And then I guess from there,
real quick, talking about that again. What were the levels of feedback? Did athletes enjoy knowing that there was, an opportunity to not draft if they could take advantage of it, or what was type of feedback specifically?
Yeah, I guess it's mainly just seeing what the draft distance is and knowing how close you are, but then also having the comfort that the referee sees the same thing. So you're not constantly racing around the course worrying about, is a referee going to come up on me and have a different interpretation of what I think this distance is and pop me. And a little bit of, at the same time, all my competitors have this system as well, and if they are in the red zone, the referee can come and see them. I was actually surprised at, how do I describe, the level of competitiveness of athlete. Like even at the back half of the field, people were still, kind of dawdling up a hill, but looking at the lights and reacting to them, which was quite cool to see. It's not a particularly busy race, so with only sort of 320 athletes, it's not huge.
Is that a one loop course also?
No, it was quite hectic still because they did, I think it was 3 out and back sections, so there was a lot of mixing and overlapping. So while it wasn't huge numbers, it was still fairly congested. Definitely wasn't, big peloton territory, but no, it was a good exercise for us, and really just signaling our intentions of what we're trying to do as well, getting to age group. So
perfect.
That's
Jackson,
amazing.
Lisa, any comments?
I was just going to say, as someone who I've had the opportunity to use your device in T100 races, in Pro Series races, and at the Paralympic World Championships last year when I was guiding, I was like, oh, wait, Race Ranger's here? You're putting a Race Ranger on the tandem bike? So I was just like, I mean, every single race that I go to almost nowadays, I'm like, you guys are there, which is pretty cool. And every race that I go to, that Race Ranger is not there. I'm like, wait, I don't, how do I do this again? I don't know what 12 meters is. Like what? Then I'm like thrown off and I have to like relearn the whole
It does
system
suck when
again.
you're not there after we've had it for like a few races. And I'm like, oh man, these boys are going to have a field day now out there.
I find it, like you said, knowing that the referee is going to see the same thing you see is great with the Race Ranger. But like then when you go to a non-Race Ranger and you're like, do these refs, have they been at a Race Ranger race much? Like, because now that I have, the zone's way closer than I ever thought before Race Ranger. It was like, I used to literally never get closer than probably 20, maybe like 18 meters. And then when it was a 12-meter race, now I still stay at like 15 plus usually. But then when there's not a Race Ranger and I'm like, I know I'm at like 15, but if a ref's like way behind me, they might think I'm at like 8. So now it's like, I wish they were at every race, but yeah, I'm curious to know, because I heard on another podcast, one of the big ones, bigger triathlon podcasts, they said that like
there's no one bigger than you guys, surely.
Yeah,
No.
we're one of the oldest.
big in a sense, but anyways, they said that Race Ranger like needs to become an age group product to be for the company to continue like long term. They're like, if it's just pros, it'll just like fail as a company. And they kind of stated it as like a fact. Is that true? Like, is that a long-term goal that you have to get to, or is it like a little more open-ended in terms of where you might take it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not I guess as black and white as that, but we can probably survive as a pro-only thing, but it was definitely has to be our strategic focus to get to age group. It's definitely not making much money doing what it's doing now. It's enough to support, there's 2 parts to the business really. There's like operating at events and traveling and shipping gear around, and then there's engineering and production of units, and it's covering its operating costs of that, but it's not, the other side is a black hole of money basically that needs to get filled up and go back in the positive at some point. So people have invested in the company because they believe in what we're doing and they think it's good for the sport on one hand, but a lot of them as well are looking to get a return on their money at some point, and that's depends basically on us getting to age group or not. Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's like as much of a luxury product anymore. Initially, it's like, well, it'd be nice to have this, but now with the caliber of talent, the racing that we are all up against, the prize money, like I think eventually the rates for even being at pro races needs to be higher. Like these, especially T100, who's just seeing a massive influx of capital left, right, and center every year upon year. Like, I mean, and Ironman makes enough to where they can invest more into having you guys be part of it. It changes the dynamic of the race in a very positive and undeniably mandatory way from here on out. I think now that we've had it, they would be so dumb to pull anything back. So I think that you should charge more.
Maybe that may be an option, is to look at putting up prices and be looking at that. But I think it's one other side is just bumping up the number of races that we go to as well. Someone pointed out to me on another podcast, actually, the Nice start list and all the World Championships, actually, a lot of athletes are earning slots there at races that don't have Race Ranger at them. So over half the field. And I think for Marbella, I actually looked into it after that call, and Marbella, it's only like a third of the field will have qualified at a Pro Series race with Race Ranger there. So
wow.
And if you look at, we can get into the Roth data in a minute, but if you look at some of the trends there, the athletes that are taking the mickey the most are in that second half of the field, and so they're not going to be at the front end of the field at the World Championships probably, but they're getting there at these races where they're not being observed as closely as ones that are getting there at Pro Series races. So I don't want to cast like a shadow over people who've qualified at those races, but it is kind of like having not having drug testing at some races and then disadvantaging. So that makes sense to me to up. You're giving out prize money. If you're giving out prize money, you probably should have Race Ranger there in my book. But that'd be a way to increase our, I guess, keep us more viable for a bit longer. But we are really focused on the age group thing, and we can talk about that as well.
Yeah, I do have a question though. Do you have all the historical data from every race that you've been at with, oh my gosh, the amount of money that I would give to see this is a lot.
We can talk. No, we can't. We can't talk about that.
Why not? Like, is that like an agreement that you have to withhold based on the race organization? Like, you guys have an agreement?
Yeah, basically we have an event agreement with each event that we work with, obviously, that we're going to deliver the service and you're going to pay us this much money sort of thing, and this is how it'll all work. And the data that we gather is owned by each event. So it's their event. We're operating there at their service. So we gather whatever we gather, we don't own it. And so we can't just share it as well. It's up to them whether they share it or
crazy.
not. So
I think the athletes should own their own data.
Yeah, I have a problem with that.
I'm not saying like you guys shouldn't also own it, but I think like at the very least, people should be able to see their own data because it's like a power meter. It's like, okay, what? I'm not going to get to see my own power numbers. You know what I mean?
Well, also, like, what if, and this might be the case, what if these organizations are paying for drug testing to be there? Then do they own the results and they can therefore decide what is released? I think that's the same type of, dilemma.
Yeah, exactly. You're getting outside probably my area of expertise, but who owns what is a question, and we've always tried to just avoid getting too involved in it. It's up to the events to decide what they want to do with it. And like there's in Europe, there's pretty tight privacy laws and things, so that was always a bit of a hot potato about releasing the data. Is what if someone complains that you've defamed me or something, or you've stained my name, or like the way around it is just to put it into the pro athlete entry or license application.
Right.
Yeah, I consent to the
transparency.
release of my data. You've got to sign this thing to be able to get your license, and it just becomes part of operating. But yeah, to answer your question, Lisa, there is obviously we have a record of everything there, and we're constantly sharing that with the races after the race. And I've just actually started doing that, particularly with Ironman, and giving them a history. I won't go too much into it, but hey, these are some people who we've gathered data on at your events only, and this is sort of where they usually sit, so that you can potentially go into a world championship and know which athletes have drafted a lot. Only we've been seeing them, obviously. There's obviously races we're not at, but that could be a way to, that's an alternative to releasing it. You either release it and there's the pressure of potentially being publicly shamed that it's coming out and you're having high numbers, or it stays under wraps and the event can use it to sort of know more about you than you know,
Yeah.
and target you if you're a known repeat offender.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I kind of like both. I mean, I do like that organizations can be like, hey, this refs, just a heads up, we've got a minus 30-minute guy here, a negative time at most races, so let's be aware. But I think the evolution of this technology within the rules has been probably the biggest headaches for you all, of course, in athlete briefings as well, where, well, what if slotting in, or what if you pass through, what if there's a triple bypass going on? And I think that's really where these officiants, these head referees, they need to get their shit together and start handling this with the technology that you've provided them. Because right now they're just like, well, we're just going to see some lights, and if we decide to enforce the lights, that's up to us. But it's like they are very flippant on, hey, if I see a red, that's an instant penalty, or we're going to give you a warning. Or there's like, if you're climbing, you guys can bunch up. But then at another race, if there's climbing, you can't bunch up. So I think this technology has brought about a lot of really good topics with how we race that, sometimes you're not getting a draft advantage if you're climbing, right? I don't know. Like, I think that should be a bit of a grace period at some point. But anyways, I think that's really brought a lot of good conversation points as to how we flow in and out of each other's ways. What do you think in terms of that? Like, is that something you guys are recommending, or are you just like, let them race and figure it out, and each organization handles it different?
Yeah, I guess Ironman's probably the most proactive in creating a guideline on how it will be policed. And there's I think a 1 to 2 page guide that we made that is put out with every we call it the newsletter before an event. And it was really clear, like, hey, if you're in the red, you must move forward. You cannot move backwards. If a ref sees you doing that, you will probably get a penalty, sort of thing. And that was sort of the main interpretation that's really important. Whereas other events, I don't know. I haven't been in, T100. They have closed briefings, so we can't come into those briefings and be part of that conversation. But
well, T100, they're just telling them, forget about the lights, don't worry about it. It's obvious from the broadcast.
I don't know if that's exactly how it's going, but I think Jackson, and Lisa, you probably raced at those races, and you can maybe tell us how that goes down at those briefings.
Lisa does too.
Yeah, I think how it's being policed needs some uniformity. Like, we need. Ideally, we can all agree on one draft distance. Would be great if everyone could come together around whatever number it is. Let's just say, okay, enough's enough. Let's keep it simple. Here's one rule. And then, because I think a lot of this discussion is caused by the different draft distances. You have the 12-meter rule, which obviously we know there's some you're getting more draft there than you're at 20, right? Everyone agrees on that. So the policing at 12 meters is probably going to be a lot stricter than the policing at 20 meters just naturally, because in the ref's head, hey, he's at 11 or he's at 19. Clearly, he's getting more draft at 11 than at 19. So I think that's part of it. If we can just unify around one distance, we can then go, okay, great. Next step is, this is how we will police Race Ranger based on this new distance, whether it's 15, 18, 20, whatever it is, 25 meters. And then we can all go, right, all the referees have one playbook to officiate off, and it's not a local interpretation type thing. I guess I'm sure let's hope at least in 5 to 10 years we'll have professional referees who travel the world officiating triathlon, just like athletes travel the world. There's something for you guys to maybe think about once you're retiring. Not looking at anyone in particular, Nick, but once you get out of being an athlete, there's a lot
that
more.
Is not the
things
type
you
of
can do in
job
the
you
sport.
would want.
It would be too.
Give me a penalty,
That'd be
Nick.
great.
I would love that, because I would actually be like, oh, I know what's happening right here, penalty,
Yeah.
or I'd be
We need
like,
people
ooh,
like this,
yeah, I agree.
We need to get into it. So, but perhaps there's a need for a team of crack referees that travel the world. The Media Motos team. You guys will have seen them in the hotels
That's what I was
How
thinking.
cool is
I was
that?
like, they travel the world. I see them like every other weekend.
with motorbikes.
Yes.
Yeah.
These dudes would just need a tablet. They don't need a motorbike. So
Yeah.
that's a pretty cool operation to actually just talk about. They have, I don't know how many motos the guy's got, like over 120 motos and scooters that he ships around the world from bike races and triathlons, and then he flies in a team of 8 to 12 drivers, and yeah, I mean, just add some referees to that team, and you've got the solution there. But I think we'll get there. But yeah, it's
That's
going to take a little bit of
expensive.
time. Yeah, it would
Yeah.
be expensive. Yeah.
I think, James, I think you should start charging organizations by the meter of draft. So like it costs more for a shorter draft zone and costs less for a bigger draft zone, and just to help encourage some organizations to get on the longer draft zone. Just because you don't want to have to keep reprogramming or switching the race ranger devices between races. Actually,
Ooh.
is that hard to switch between like 12 and 20, or is it just kind of like, whoop, just
Oh,
press a button?
it is a thing. Like it's a bit annoying. Like we have to reprogram them all, which yeah, we've made it easier to do. Like it's just to hit a button on an iPad and come back an hour and a half later, and they're all done.
Okay.
But then you think about all the other little bits and pieces, like the little stickers we put on your top tube. We have to print 3 versions of those at the moment. We give cards of the same thing to the referees. Those are different every time.
Yeah.
It'd be much cleaner for us if it was one distance, but that's not a main driver. The main thing I think is around how it's interpreted and just make it clear for everyone and clean. And a spectator is watching 1 week it's 20, 1 week it's 12. It's just confusing for everyone. So
Yeah.
And it's not really non-draft at 12. I mean, let's be honest now.
It's
I mean,
easy
at least
to get.
for sure in the men's race, you're looking at the front of these fields is usually averaging over 45k an hour now, sometimes like 47, 48. And how long does it take to travel 12 meters at that speed? Like that wind is still moving when you get there for sure, and you can feel it. So, and even obviously the women's race, they're getting super fast. Like the women's times are what the men's times were like 10 years ago. Like everyone's just getting so
Yep.
fast.
And sometimes we
So,
just ride with the pro men.
and that happens a lot too. And then
Oh.
I don't know with certainty, but I've heard that Ironman has been very against changing the draft zone because they're very, for some reason, married to this idea that the pros and the age groupers have to have the exact same rules no matter what. So they're like, well, we can't change the age group draft to 20 meters, so we can't do it for the pros either, which I just don't. I mean, the rules are already different. Age groupers can slipstream and we can't. So, like, why would they hold on to that? I mean, I don't know. Maybe the head referee is just slow to change things and maybe needs to be.
I know why. Okay, I won't say any names, but I know the board members, and that's why. Look at the board members of Ironman. That's why things are the way they are. Just that's all you need to know.
I will say I do think it's harder to enforce a 20-meter draft zone in a multiple loop course. Like Jackson, if you think back to Ironman Chattanooga, Nick, you were in race Ironman Chattanooga last year.
Three loop courses.
Loop bike course. Tons of people the whole time. Would have kind of been like a disaster. But yeah. I mean,
I
I'm
would go
totally
far
for a
enough to say
20
that
meter.
there shouldn't be any 3-loop courses for pro races. Like, just not really a safe environment for the most part. unless
Just a
it's
question
really
on that one, guys. In my head, on that race in particular, and others like it, where you do catch up to people who are on their first lap and you're on your second lap, are you getting much like? Are you ending up in a group with them? Are you traveling the same speeds, or are you just whizzing by them?
Dude, you're passing them so fast that it's scary sometimes, and like especially like 10-mile-an-hour differences, and there's usually groups of them together, and they are spread over. Like you are screaming on your left so often, and you're trying to not be rude, or sometimes you don't say anything. You just jump over the rumble strips and ride the edge. Like it is absolutely scary sometimes.
You do not want to say on your left sometimes, because then they look around and turn your bike into you, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
that, and then
So,
there's
but
also like
there's-
it narrows your path that you can like. So basically, you can't really drop a group if you're kind of in that situation.
And you're up on your hoods because you got to be close to your brakes, right?
Yeah.
You don't
Well,
want to.
that,
Yeah.
and you are getting more of a draft benefit just by them all being there, and because they are like weaving in and out in front of you.
You
That
end
like
up
you're gonna get
slipstreaming.
you're gonna get a bigger draft.
Or
with
somebody
those
will get in your
multiple
way.
courses.
Like last year at Ironman Chattanooga, I like put in this huge attack to try to drop the group that was with me. It was this time trial start with no swim and 3-loop bike, and I didn't really consider how hard it would be to get away from a group once we're looped in with the age groupers. And after like 65k, we looped in with the age groupers, and I just like attacked as hard as I could for like 2 minutes, and I was like away from the group. And then on a downhill, I was probably going 20 to 30k an hour faster than all the age groupers because I'm pushing like 400 watts too. And then somebody like did a slow and I had to hammer my brakes and then the group caught me like on a downhill. I mean, I don't know for sure if I would have been away, but after the race, Andy Dreitz was like, man, I thought you were gone for sure. And then all of a sudden on that downhill, I just caught back up and he had the group with him. So it's just, yeah, I mean, like who knows these things, but at the same time, I was like, all right, if there's a 3-loop Ironman course, I don't think I'm doing it. Like, I think it's a different race.
Yeah,
Pick a
and
different
that all
race.
sucks, and
Yeah.
it's not safe. But I don't think that having different draft distances really affects that. Do you think? Like,
No,
if
I
we
don't
change
think.
suddenly to, yeah,
Not in
No.
that
you're not really.
situation. No.
It's when the age group male catches a fast age group male catches the trailing woman, right? That's when you
Yeah.
get the most
That or the
similar
fast
speed
women catching
interaction.
the slower pro men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, James,
So
so you said you have some, I guess, like updates or things in the works. Are you allowed to share any of that with us?
definitely. So we have some cool stuff coming. So we've been working really hard on connecting every device to the internet, basically. So
Ooh.
having a SIM card in every unit in the rear units that has a direct feed to the cell network, to the cloud. And that once we have that, we have a whole lot of opportunities open up. And
Yeah.
part of that is to connect directly to the referees. So obviously a signal goes up to the internet, and then it can come down to a referee with a tablet.
Can be in real time.
Believe me, I've got a pile of 7 brand new tablets over there that I've just bought this week that I'm going to be modifying and mounting onto harnesses for the referees, and we'll have that at a race later this month. So that then begs the question, okay, well, what do you show the referees and how do we interact with the referees? And this is something we've been working on for quite a while already. Basically, we spend a lot of time with referees at events and officials and tents and things and figuring out what they actually do already. And how they communicate is pretty all over the show at the moment. Like, they do their best, but we saw the situation in Frankfurt as an example. You've got people cruising around the course, whether they're on motorbikes, on bicycles, standing in transition. They're communicating with radios. They're writing down handwritten notes often. And they are using a WhatsApp group often for general communications as well as officiating communications. So this is the world of the technical official
Which
here.
is
So you've
hilarious
got,
if you think about it.
yeah, it's a bit all over the show. And we saw a need for all that to be centralized in an official way already, even without anything coming from the stuff on the bikes. So we've actually got an app that we're working on with World Triathlon, which is now being tested at a World Series event in Alghero, a World Cup, and then at Hamburg. And at Hamburg, they actually used it for all the officials for the whole event, for all the age groupers as well, 4,000 athletes.
Wow.
So this is basically something that a communication tool for a database of penalties and communications for referees and officials. And then other users can be added to that. So people like the commentators would want to know when an athlete's been given a penalty, they'll get a notification. Lisa's been given a penalty for this. And this is where on the course it happened. And then as soon as you serve that, there'll be notification. Cool, Lisa served a penalty. The dude in the broadcast with all the screens can choose. Let's go to the penalty tent because Lisa's serving a penalty there. That kind of stuff. And then
We know
once
Lisa's
we
gets
do have
lots
that
of penalties.
connection, yeah, I'm picking on you. Then we've got when we do get this information coming from the devices, we'll know where everyone is as a start point. So, hey, Jackson is at this point of the course versus where Lisa is. And, oh no, Jackson stopped. What's going on there? There can be notifications to the event staff about that, Jackson's gone off a
Wow.
cliff in Nice. Like, where is he? Like, that's where he is. Get some help there right now. We know his
Would've been
medical
good
history.
6
He's got
years ago.
he's got a scar on his back, and we know he's allergic to penicillin. And let's notify his next of kin, all automated within the system. Right at the moment, it's a bit hectic when that kind of thing goes down. So centralizing all that kind of stuff is going to be really cool. But obviously, instead of seeing this data after the race, the referees will also have this screen now of the drafting information as it's happening. So you'll be
Wow.
able to go, like we've been talking about this for a long time, but we're pretty close to having it now, where you'll get updates once a second of who's drafting right now, how that looks in the course of like the last 10 minutes. Let's say, right, the second Jackson's not drafting, but 30 seconds ago he did a 2-minute section, and so let's just have him on the list of people that this referee in particular, because he's kind of close to Jackson on the course, needs to get shown. And if I refresh my screen as that referee, I can see, okay, yep, Jackson's 200 meters ahead of me. He's been drafting a lot in the last 10 minutes. Let's just keep an eye on him and maybe drive up and give him a warning or say, hey man, I'm watching you, dude. And that's coming. So that's pretty cool. That's a big part to it.
What about this too? Because I mean, obviously the ecosystem you just put out there is expanding
I hate that
beyond.
word, but yeah, it's exactly that.
No, it is, man. Like, because you can have an athlete profile. It's going to be there for the broadcast team. It can be there for a ref coordinator to talk to the other refs and say where to go. Like, the network you're creating with the data and synchronicity of communication could be massively impactful, not only for our sport, but the tech. And that's really why I've known what you're doing is valuable beyond our sport, because the technology can expand to all kinds of great stuff. But I think there needs to be a set amount of negative time based off of courses, right? That's really what I think is going to be a game changer for how referees decide to officiate certain courses. Like, you all have 2 minutes of negative time. After that, we're going to either penalize you during the race, or we're going to take that time off of your total time. And there's like a board that you run by on the run, and you can see how much negative time you've acquired, and it's updated. That would be like something we've all probably had discussions about. But what about you all in terms of how you are aggregating all this negative time throughout a race? How do you enforce it?
Yeah, we're just, I guess, figuring that out with the sport as well. Like, we've tried to fit into the existing rules framework as much as we can and not require any changes, because we thought that would be like a barrier to getting the thing actually adopted at the start point.
Totally agree.
Now we've been out there, now we've been out there a couple of years, and people are starting to understand what we can do. And the Roth, data was a big eye opener for a lot of people on, wow, this opens up some really cool opportunities. The feedback we've always had is that the decision to give a penalty should always stay with the human until, maybe a long point in the future when we all, become really familiar with it and trust it. It's like self-driving cars, right? I heard that the robo-taxis are great, but they still have a driver in them at the moment. But yeah, it's that kind of thing. It takes a while for us to fully trust the technology. So yeah, I think a good solution, a good interim, is that we provide that data to the referees live, and they can then remove the athlete from that situation still. Whether we get to a point where there's a threshold and you do get a penalty based on that threshold, like a health score, like you can kind of, you start at 100%, and once you've done a certain amount of drafting, you get a ping for a penalty. And that could become part of tactics. I'm not a huge fan of Formula One, but I understand they have this DRS thing, which is like a drag reduction system, where they're allowed to adjust their tail fin, and they're only allowed to do it a few times in the race.
Dude.
And this could become like a part of racing,
I've been saying this for years. If triathlon's ever going to be interesting to watch, we got to have some shit to where the human performance is not the only thing that is performance. Whether you get like 2 minutes of eco boost that is built into your bike, or like, again, you can turn somebody's off. Like, there's got to be some ways to make the sport more fun.
You slip on a banana, or you go
Mario
through one
Kart.
of those Mario Kart zoom things, or you make someone's brake flutter.
I think
Probably dangerous, but
I think ultimately it would be really cool if the technology was trusted and reliable enough to be able to just say, yeah, you had this many minutes. Like Nick said, there's a certain amount that's allowed based off each course. And looking at Roth and just looking at the data, like, okay, maybe it was around 3 minutes or something, but with all those areas removed and stuff. And if you're over that, every 1 second that you're over that, that's a penalty of that much time, or just a penalty. But that amount of time would be kind of cool, because then if you just get a penalty, then it could be like, all right, well, I'll just draft an hour then and get one penalty and save all that time. So that's one thing I think. Like, I guess one question is, like, how reliable do you guys think that the devices are? Because I know in, like, the first year of the device, the 2023, I definitely noticed a few glitches in the races when I was using them. 2024, maybe one or two, but not much. And
Only
then
in the rain it was shit.
this year I didn't notice any issues. Like I was like, okay, it literally looks like it's doing exactly what it should do every time. Um, what have you done to update?
Yep.
Like, how reliable do you think it is now compared to like 2 years ago?
Yeah, so even through probably the first half of last year, we were still having bugs that we were finding in races and getting reports of it doing the wrong thing, and that it was a pretty stressful year where we were like constantly trying to find a problem from a Monday, Sunday night, find a problem, talk to the athlete or anyone who saw it, understand what happened, pour through our own recordings of the situation that may have been going on there, come up with a theory as to what the problem was, propose a solution, get a firmware solution written in and tested again reliably by like the Thursday or Friday, and then roll it out for the following week, and often actually find something else that caused. So it was a pretty stressful period. It's definitely not perfect, and probably on two fronts. So there's always electronic hardware involved, right? So things over time are going to fail, and that's just a given, and we have to try and do it if we can to make that percentage as small as we can. And I know actually one of the ones this year was Lisa in San Francisco. I think your front unit wasn't going properly from
Yeah.
memory, so that meant I think you didn't see any lights, or either it was the other way around in your rear and no one saw lights behind you. One of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of part of the reason I think for keeping a human involved at some level. So there's that. And then the other side is just ironing out and making the software as good as we can make it. We know there's like one really small edge case where I think it's like 1 in 500 cases an overtake will be missed. So basically the system will not detect an overtake, and it'll assume that the order is still the other way around. And so a person who's now on the back can have lights for the person who's actually in front of them. We found that this resolves itself within like 4 seconds most of the time. I think the most we've ever seen is like 6 seconds. So you've got like 1 in 500 chances this happen, and it'll only add like 4 to 5 seconds to your time. So that's kind of as bad as it is now that we know about. And as I say, we could probably we actually did spend a couple of months trying to fix that, and just found like, hey, we could keep chasing this forever and not ever get to the next step. So we've sort of parked it, and we know about that. We know it's never going to be 100% perfect, but hopefully, actually we know that this next version that we're working on will be better. We're just doing it a different way, but yeah, I think reliability wise, the good thing about it is as soon as we knew, Lisa's device had an issue, great. Those two, they're not getting used again next week, and they get sent back to New Zealand to get taken apart and try and understand what caused the issue. If it was a hardware problem, or if it was just some water getting in, and we're on our second version of hardware, and we still have had some waterproofing issues with them, and we're working on a third version of the enclosure at the moment that's watertight. Got a meeting in that in a couple of hours, so yeah.
I just got to say that it's very impressive with how much you guys have done in such a short period of time. I've worked with accelerometers and gyroscopes before in the past, and I just know how like finicky some of this technology can be, and like with firmware updates and software updates and all those things, like it's pretty impressive how quickly you can do that. So like huge props to you guys for continuing to, especially like realize that there are issues, and wanting to be very proactive about it in a short amount of time is very impressive. Job that I could not do. So
Yeah, well,
it's
he says
probably
he
why
doesn't
you
get
don't
much
sleep
sleep
very much.
for
Yeah.
the podcast. But so okay, I have a question about the potential glitches and stuff. So when basically the main glitch that you still see is something that might affect one person in the race for like 4 to 6 seconds. So I guess we should talk about the challenger off data, because that's what we
Yes.
have to look at. And is there a chance that somebody who's got like 20 minutes of draft time, it was a glitch and it wasn't real? Or is it like, this is pretty reliable data we can, based off you guys have seen, because you guys know the data from all the races. So is it looking
And
like
you
about
must
what
have
you'd
scrubbed
expect
it
based
also.
off many races?
Yeah, so we wouldn't have put something out that we weren't confident in, basically. There are, I mean, can I tell you that whoever it is, if we have 1 minute 42 seconds, that was 2000% sure? Probably not, but I can tell you that it was probably within like 138 to 145, like pretty tight margins. And it does, I guess one downfall at the moment is that it does include, if you're coming up to a U-turn and you bunch up and you go into the red there, that's obviously not something that's really important, but that still is counted at the moment. There were no U-turns on this course. There were, obviously some left and right-handers, but it's pretty flowy course, and Nick can maybe talk about the course there. And if you clearly if you anticipate those corners and those areas coming, you can avoid it. A U-turn's a different thing, right? But we haven't built it out as sophisticated enough to detect when an overtake has happened and also exclude those. Sorry, when a U-turn has come along. But there's going to be some time accumulated through that. But in saying that, there's a pretty clear differentiation. If you look at the curve of if you graphed it out and looked at the distribution of athletes at like 0 and low seconds up to the low minutes, and then the pretty clear spike upwards from there.
Yeah.
There's a pretty clear delineation between those who are riding fairly and those who are probably pushing it too far, I think. And these little bits of, going into the red through a U-turn are going to give you some time, but the ones who are sitting there and not making a pass for, 10, 20, 1 minute long are going to still show up as the bad ones.
As a former athlete, when you look at this data, does it sometimes infuriate you? Like, does it make you mad sometimes? And you're like, oh my gosh.
A little bit. I can't speak too much about like a lot of other race data, but generalizations, it's good to see that the athletes at the top are racing clean. And like my experience, same thing when I was racing, I spent a lot of time living and training with some top athletes. I was sort of second tier, maybe ranked 20th to 30th, sort of making up the numbers in World Series. But when I went and lived and trained with these athletes, there's no way they could be taking drugs. Like I'm living in the bedroom next to them, kind of thing. Although with that Colin and Lionel situation, but I had that confidence in the people that I was with, that they were racing clean and they were finishing, top 5 in the Olympics. And I see the same sort of thing here. Now I'm not saying that the dudes with the high numbers are probably doping as well. That's a bit of a stretch, but I think it's there's always this data has been an eye opener for everyone, and I think even the people racing. Let's say Nick had popped up with like 15 minutes. Nick might have thought he was a clean athlete before the race, and now Nick knows, oh wow, I'm actually got quite a high score, and I need to probably adjust my behavior in future. And these guys who have got the high numbers are probably having that experience now, and I think we shouldn't be too quick to judge them on what we saw there. It's the first time, and they may have thought that everyone was doing the same. So
we could judge them on the second time then.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't really have any quarter for anybody on that list. Like, it was made very clear before this race that we would be publicizing this data, and you can clearly see what's happening in front of you based off the very bright lights that you've provided us. So the athletes knew what they were doing, whether they just were willing to accept it or figured out that I think I took a bit of a crap
figure out
on
that
the internet.
They were cheaters.
Am I back?
You're back.
You're back.
Anyways, I think that it was pretty obvious that some athletes decided to disregard what was actually going to happen. But I think it was great that Challenge Roth was the first race to bring it on. The course does bring a lot of things other courses have, like some really good climbs, some roundabouts where there was some bunching, some very like race-oriented spots where you will encounter some draft zone enter and exit on a regular basis. But there's also plenty of long stretches. So it was a great course to see that data for sure. And I think the next part would be to see a sensor on the lead on the moto. If there's one moto that's going to be up there, set it to 50 meters and see how many times. I mean, it's not like the athlete's fault, but how many times did that occur? Because that gives us a lot of perspective. If let's say Jackson's murdering himself to catch the front group and he's still losing 30 seconds every time he sees him on out and back, it'd be nice for him after the race to be like, well, yeah, the moto was within 30 meters most of the time.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe I'll remind me to come back to the motorbike thing because I'll drift into something else and then come back to that. That's
Yeah.
the way my brain's sort of thinking right now. So, reason we can't chuck them on the motorbikes right now, main reason is there's some communication, or quite a bit of communication between a front and a rear on a single athlete's bike, right? And so if we want the motorbike to be out there in the same way as what we currently have, we need a front and a rear, but the signal is not going to get through the motorbike body as well between those two front and rears. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of difference between a carbon bike and a skinny athlete's legs than there is a motorbike. Now, we are now working on a way, basically, to have a system where some athletes have two devices and some athletes have just a rear. And this is getting into this age group discussion of how the hell is this thing going to work for age groupers. When you talk about Race Ranger for age groupers, people jump to this, the vision of the big bunches and the pelotons and a big Christmas tree disco of flashing red lights in the bunch and people slamming on the brakes and it causing a big chaos. That's obviously not going to work. And so how I sort of propose to address this is to look at the age group field and go, okay, there's clearly a spectrum of athletes here, from your very, very competitive people who this is their life, their sport, it's who they identify as often. They put a lot of time and effort into it. They often want to go to the World Championships or at least place in their age group, and they take it pretty seriously. And then there's another end of the spectrum and there's a lot of people somewhere on the spectrum, but there's other people at the other end of the spectrum probably doing this thing for the first time. Maybe they have had motivation of they've had a life event and they need to lose some weight or get in shape and go, I'm gonna do an Ironman, and they go, oh, that looks pretty hard. Maybe I'll do a 70.3 to start with. They might rock up at the race, with a gym bag and a bike they've borrowed off a friend, not really knowing what's going on. People like yourselves or people at the other end of the spectrum are wandering around all chiseled bodies, and it's quite intimidating for these people. They don't really know what's going on. They're really there to achieve something, to have fun, and to stay safe doing it, tick off an exercise goal. They probably don't even know what drafting is when they turn up. And so there's a spectrum of athletes, and there's some sort of distribution of how serious people are and how non-competitive they are. And so for us, there should be really two entry categories for this to sort of cater to both groups, where there's a competitive group who clearly obviously want to be eligible to go to Kona or championships. They want a placing in their age group. They want to be policed the same way the pros are. They want to be actively, they want their peers to be judged the same way they are and have a fair race. And they love the element of competition as well. That's what they're there for. And then there's another group who probably not a hell of a lot needs to change from the way it currently operates. We've got, yes, there's a drafting rule, but really it's not actively policed right amongst age groupers. Be interesting to hear from your team group what they think on this as well. But they, at the moment, the referees might pull up on a pack of age groupers and just say, look, guys, just stay safe, just keep your distance and be careful here. We don't want any accidents. That's how it should be. The primary focus is staying safe. But that's not very fair for my mum competing against my friend's mum, because at the pointing of the field, because they're mixed up in this whole thing and it's pretty hard to avoid, and they've always got this feeling of is Karen over there sitting in the bunch for the whole ride, or is she racing as fair as I am? And you don't know where they are as well, because you're all on this rolling start scheme, which is great for keeping people a bit further apart, but also reducing the water safety fear for a lot of people. But these competitive ones probably are not in that category, so they probably can handle a wave start. So how this would work is basically we'd give 2 units to the competitive athletes, the way we do for you guys.
Yeah.
So we have this really, really accurate system for lights and everything, and that can be connected to the referees and they can be actively policed. And then for the rest of the group, they just get the rear unit, because we're never going to be able to separate these two fields by different days of competition or anything like that. It's just not going to happen. But they're going to mix. There's going to be slower competitive athletes and faster non-competitive athletes mixing. We don't want a sea of lights in the non-competitive ones. So basically they won't see any lights in front of them. They'll only show lights to other people, to other athletes. So as a competitive athlete, if you are overtaken by a non-competitive one, you'll see lights on the back of them, if you re-overtaken them, there won't be any lights on the back of you, only to athletes in your category. And this avoids that whole disco of lights drama. And I think this can kind of work operationally as well, because if you take, let's say, and this is the part I don't really know, what percentage will choose to go in that category? Was it 10%? Is it 30%, 40%? We'll find that out, potentially. But the more that go into that category, the bigger the gap you can then have to the start of the rolling start, because it's as if they've all just gone rolling start, but you've just compressed them all into a gun start, right?
That's tough.
So,
But also amazing if you think about it, and I'm coming back to think about it from like the pro field side, because if you can compress it a little bit more too, that means you can give a little bit more space between the men's pro and the women's pro. In my head that makes
potentially,
more sense. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So would you have the competitive start just be one wave, like competitive 70 plus and competitive 30 to 35 at the same time?
I don't know. That's probably not for me to work out. It's more getting into those conversations with the events. They've obviously probably thought about these things a lot more than we have. But the simple version is a gun start for men, and then a bit of a gap, and then a gun start for women, and then leave another gap until the rolling start starts. I'm not sure how they do it actually at the World Championships. Do they do a rolling start still, but they have a category of your category goes as a rolling start, and the next category goes
Self-seeded within the categories.
But it's not just like you're not starting next to a 20-year-old if you're 50, that sort of thing. It's probably
No, it's
what's
still
happening?
just swim speed, right? Same thing as any other race.
But I think they did that in New Zealand, where they did it by age group, but within your age group it was a rolling start, but your whole age group went like as a rolling start together.
I can tell you from all the feedback from my athletes who are age groupers, like the whole swim start system is rubbish right now, because what happens is people look at it not in terms of the honesty of what swim time they plan to have. They look at it as they want to get their ass on course as early as possible to avoid the heat and to be out there, with less exposure. That's all they're thinking about. So even the faster swimmers are having to argue their way to the front. If these lines are forming well beyond or well early, you have to self-seat. I had athletes so stressed about the swim start lineup, they got there an hour and a half before, and lo and behold, that was unnecessary for this particular race. But that's where I do like a bit of an age graded, or even if there was a compete versus a complete wave. I like that you're giving athletes the opportunity to opt in to say, I'm throwing everything at this race. I would like it as clean as possible, even in the swim. And anyone but I think that's troublesome too, because then think about this, it's more of a virtue signal to anybody who has opted to not take that front or the two devices, just saying well, I guess I'm not competitive, I'm not really worth it. There's a lot of social things going on that this is going to be an evolution. But I do like the fact that we're starting to bring it in. We're having these conversations, and with tons of polling, we can probably figure out where to start.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely. And I think that's stuff to be worked out for sure.
Yeah.
And you don't want to lessen the achievement of doing an Ironman as well, and say, you were, in that sense. So it is still a tough challenge to get to the finish line, and it needs to be still regarded
It needs
that
to
way.
be fun. This sport at its course, it's a mass participation event, no matter what, and people need to have fun doing it. And if it's super stressful and people who are competing quickly are dicks about it, it isn't gonna be fun. They're gonna Ironman is in the business of making money at the end of the day. So they're well, all this shit's complicated. We're gonna have to hire more people. We're gonna have to manage it. We're gonna have to restructure it. Nope. Let them sort it out, and then we're gonna save money. They're probably gonna do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know I don't really think it would cost to be much cost changes really. I mean, it depends how far you want to take it. Do you want to start doing things like having a different color caps for this group? Do you want to have a different color tattoo? Do you want to have a transition rack that's next to the pros? Do you want to have a separate briefing just for this competitive group?
I think that's
Or do you
coming.
Just keep it,
Well,
I
the
think
thing
with
is,
Scott,
for the huge
Scott's
athletes-
doing that because he's going to build in luxury assets to this brand. I guarantee it.
Well,
They
that
already
that
are.
fits in with this whole model if that's the way. So
Yeah.
the thing that's missing that you're addressing with this idea is the really competitive age groupers, like you mentioned, they want a wave start. They want to know, oh, you know, this is actually where I am relative to this person in my age group. Like,
Yeah.
there's a huge appetite for that. And, maybe you make it qualification based, like to go into the competitive wave, you need one result of top 25% in your age group, something like that, or whatever the number is. And then if you do that, then you can choose to do the competitive wave, or you can still choose to just do the standard wave. But yeah, I think these are all really positive things moving forward with Race Ranger. The one thing with Challenger Off that I'm not sure of, and maybe you know this, how many penalties were actually given out?
I don't think there are actually any given out. Yeah.
None. Okay, so this is an issue. Like, that's like, this is maybe, a wake up call for referees of like, what are you doing? Because there were, a lot of guys were fair, but a good 15-20% ish were not, or at least 10. So at least 10% had a lot of time where they could have been getting penalties and didn't get penalties. And this should be a wake up call for the officials, because how do you not? It's hard to compare person to person, because some people rode in a group the entire bike and some people were on their own. So like when they're like, oh, Sam Laidlow had 0 or whatever, like, I don't care. He was by himself. Like, good job, good for you. You can push 350 watts. Like, cool. But like Nick and Garrick were in a group the whole time. They only had like a minute or two. Joe Skipper was with a group the
Bart,
entire
Arnaud,
bike,
and Zach.
and they were like a minute or whatever, a minute and some change. So like you can ride the entire race with a group and have minimal time in there, and that's been shown. And then you can ride with a group the entire time and have 4 minutes, 9 minutes,
at the front of the race. This was happening,
and not get penalties when there's cameras. And I don't know. I've never been that impressed with the officiating in these races overall, and I've seen a lot of penalties given out that don't seem like penalties, and a lot of non-penalties that should be penalties. And it's kind of like, this should take out some of the guesswork of like, did they happen to see someone who didn't ever cheat the whole time and then they just saw it at that moment and gave him a penalty? Or are they looking at the data that you guys are going to be providing them live and like, oh, this guy actually is in the zone a lot, let's just go and confirm one time that we saw it and give him a penalty because look, he just did 3 minutes in the last half hour. Like, to me, that is a huge
plan,
next
right?
step.
Yeah, and I think that's what all of you are doing. Yeah.
Yeah, like think about how many athletes were out there on course, right? You had men and women combined, off the top of my head, something like 75 pros, right? And how many motorbike referees were out there? Probably maximum 12. And you can hear them coming, right?
Yeah.
They're not electric. They're not on electric motorbikes for the whole race. So they're only able to do so much right now. And so when they have this data, that'll be the next step. They'll be able to see what's going on without actually being right next to you, and just be tracking along and going, yep, I'm just going to keep an eye on here in Jackson for a while, and then okay, let's move in and bust that dude. He's been pushing it for too long. But they'll be drawn to the worst offenders, and that's where we start with targeting, so that you pull out those 5 to 10% that do need attention, and you leave the others alone. And it doesn't become so much of is the motorbike behind me? Is that putt a referee motorbike or a cameraman motorbike? Or is it a mechanic motorbike that's checking on me right now? Because it won't matter if they're there or not, because they'll be watching you at any time, at all time.
Ooh, I like that. And I think they need to make the motorcycles completely silent. I don't want to hear that thing ever. I just want it to be like, whoa, my God, you were there.
Yeah.
You were there.
Just get back to the motorbikes, because I told you to remind me to come back to that. So we were talking about 2 device and 1 device. And so the 1 device, all the general participant athletes would have 1 device, and that is basically used for improving the live tracking for their spectators, so their spectators know where they are with a ping once per second, exactly where they are on course. It's used for the event to know where everyone is at all times. If someone DNFs
Safety.
or goes off course, let's say a barrier falls down and a whole athlete start going off the wrong direction or whatever happens, the event gets notifications of that through the app straight away, so they can react to it. If someone stops, they know who they are, where they are, if they have gone off a cliff. And then after the race, we can provide a whole lot of stats, like we're seeing with this Roth report. That's a really basic version of what we plan to do. Imagine in the moment you get a swim bike and run time, right, provided by the event, maybe some transition times. And if you're really lucky, you get all the splits through the section. But imagine if that was they actually had a record of every second where you were, how fast you were going, what position you were in, every time you overtook someone, who it was, where it was on course, how fast they were going, how fast you were going, whether either of you scored any illegal time through that interaction. And you can map this like on a profile. Imagine the profile of the course, like you see at the bottom of the broadcast, and it's up and down, 90K. And then you can select, okay, I want to see everyone in the pro women's field, and you click on that, and it shows you dots for every time you interacted with another pro woman. And you can move the tracker along, like, okay, let's look at this dot here, and it'll tell you, okay, that's where you overtook Paula Finlay. She was traveling 42K an hour, you were traveling 44K an hour. This is how warm it was at that time of day. This is the illegal time that you earned through that. 0, of course, because you blew straight by. And then the next one, etc. This is where she overtook you back all the way through. And then you can go, okay, actually, I want to see all the women in the whole race. And you interacted, or all the men, all the age group men that interacted with me. Or just Jackson. Jackson's number was 521. Here's where I overtook Jackson. And imagine you've also got, like, Ruby, right? Ruby's already a partner of Ironman.
Yeah.
And they have all the courses pre-videoed and mapped, and you can go and train on them and see this little avatar in front of you as you go through the course. And you can move a little tracker through the video like you do with YouTube, like skip ahead. If you move this tracker on the profile, it would move through a video on the same screen as well. So you can see what it actually looked like as you went over the top of that hill, with an avatar of you, obviously. And then you can add Paula. Oh, there's Paula. Yep, that's where I overtook Paula. I think, there's some really cool stuff we can provide by just having one rear unit on everyone's bike.
This is your dream.
It adds so much value.
This is
dream.
also this is like, okay, because I'm like, this just brought me right to like Strava flybys. Have you ever used Strava flybys and you see all the little dots? You're like, I want to know who that person was that I passed on the canyon yesterday afternoon that I was riding. And you see their little dot, like, and all the little dots that you interacted with. That's what I'm like envisioning. And I'm like, that is so freaking cool. And it's cool.
And for Ironman, this gives like a reason to, like, at the moment you enter a race and you get your results and that's it. But this would live like on their website under your customer profile. So you can go back and like compare it against other races you've done. Eventually I'd love that you could go into Ruby again and rewrite the race, or even ride it live while it's going on the other side of the world. So say I want to do this race. I can't be in Canada, but let's put all the avatars of where everyone is at all times, and I'll see if I can keep up.
Mine has just been blown.
That's a lot for the age group aspect that gives value, right, to the age groupers.
Huge.
So that's where I think.
I didn't even get back to the motorbike. Back to the motorbike story. So this by altering the software to allow it to have interactions between athletes with 2 devices and 1 device, that now allows us to have a 1 device which is just on the back of the motorbike, which shouldn't be too hard as well. Obviously, you'd want to adjust the distance, so it's whatever it is, 50, 100 meters, they have to be in front. With the app, the driver of the motorbike has a notification on their dash on their phone, say, hey, you're too close, you need to move ahead further. But I see some challenges with this around, let's say you're trying to get that shot from in front, which we are trying to discourage because that's obviously providing a draft benefit on some level. But this is what we're trying to avoid, and they're getting that shot, and they're maybe 100 meters away, and they've got a big lens on them, and the motorbike driver moves away, but we want them to be behind. So let's say they've now moved to behind. As they go from the front to the back, they've created some draft, because they've gone even if they're on the other side of the road, they've disturbed the air in that area. They're now filming from behind, and it's all kosher, and there's three athletes there behind, say. But now another train starts to catch up, and at what point do you tell this guy he has to get out of the situation, and where does he go? Does he drop back and help those guys catch up, or does he zoom ahead to the front? Does he pull over and have to then rejoin the race? It's not as straightforward as, there's motorbikes, and it's easy to solve by just putting Race Ranger there, and it'll show the distance, and he'll know to zoom away. It's complex, and obviously the safety is the main thing to worry about here. This is a dude driving a big motorbike, and we've seen what happens with them. So we've got that's got to be first and foremost, and I think it's going to be really hard, basically, to avoid providing effects on some level, especially when we need officials to still eyeball things and be close to the action. You want mechanics out there giving support that just creates people out of motorbikes that are disturbing the air, and it's just hard.
I think
unless
I think
we
for
get to a
sure
point
with the
where
motorbikes, it's definitely like it would be good to get to just like a data collection phase. Like you guys have had a few years of data collection now with the athletes, and then just to get it with the motorbikes, like what are we looking at here? What's reasonable, and it's not like Nick said, it's not on the athletes. Like you can't get out of the way of a motorbike. Like you're at your speed, and if you put in a huge surge, you can increase by a couple K an hour, and they go from your speed to 70K an hour like that. Like it's on them, and it'd be interesting to see like, is there a way to get data on like our people? Because I've seen people go to the left to get behind motorbikes all the time. Like people do it all the time, and obviously that's harder to do with a GPS, or like they communicate with each other. So maybe there's a way, but
I was remember a race in France where there was a car on the line for the win, and young Frenchman got out of the water and jumped on the back of a lead car, and we never saw him again. It was a French Iron Tour back in the day. Good times. Yeah.
Okay, we don't want to take up too much of your time, James. But I do want to ask, I don't know if any of you else have a couple more questions, but I do want to ask, I have a burning question, and I want to know if you're allowed to share with us the biggest amount of draft time someone has spent in a race without naming the person that you've ever collected.
Or
Yes. Say it.
definitely higher. Like it would be a complete coincidence if the highest number we'd ever recorded popped up in the Roth data that we shared. So
yeah. Over
there's been
22 minutes.
Quite a bit higher. Yeah. We'll just say that. Yeah.
And go ahead.
And that that person could be targeted again if they popped up at a World Championships. Let's say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for those who were the biggest offenders at Roth, I have seen some come out and say exactly what you said. Like, wow, I need to really look at myself and figure out how I'm perceived and what I'm actually doing. And then there's been radio silence from others. So I think this was great. I'm glad you provided that opportunity for us at Roth. I feel like it was staged because Sam Laidlow just kind of walked in there with his crown on and his robe, and he was like, "We shall show the data," and everyone agreed, and it was so. And I was like, God damn it, this guy again, always just like pat himself on the back for being amazing. But I'm glad that we did it nonetheless. But it did feel like it was time. I'm glad that we did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really have it on our plan, so it's cool that it's generated some interest. We're always happy to keep people interested in what we're doing. But as I say,
a lot of credit
before that becomes standard. Every race it gets released, and then it's just good steps. So I'm stoked for it. And next time
sure everyone's looking at
see
it.
those guys in a race who had greater than 4 or 5 minutes range into Challenge Roth, I'll work extra hard when I drop them because I know that they're going to be getting a little extra benefit that I'll need to put in an even harder surge.
Man.
All right.
Not mentioning any names.
James, thanks so much for always giving us some of your time, and your staff, everything you've been doing has been great. It's great to see the evolution, us putting on our own devices. I'm sure eventually you'll be able to buy your own and whatever, like a membership fee, like a Aura ring. I'm sure it'll be like that.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, we're just working through how that scale up will look like, and obviously there's a lot of drama in the background to work through. Like, okay, how does 3,000 of these things get transported? How do they get cleaned after a race? At the moment, we just wipe them down with a wet wipe. It does take a lot of time. It's pretty annoying, but we can't do that for 3,000. So, we're looking at a couple of commercial dishwasher type sterilizer things that you put 50 in at a time, and they come out dry and clean, that sort of thing. Looking at the Tour de France buses all have washing machines in underneath them. We're just figuring out how they do that and how to build one of those things and how to recharge these things while you're actually driving, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Putting
James,
a couple of Tesla batteries in. Yeah.
I'm pretty cheap labor, so after next race, $100.
No.
Depending on how the race went, I can help you wipe those things down. So just come to me. These two will do it for free though.
Don't forget,
you don't know what you signed up for there, Lisa. Yeah.
And now
there's some real crap on these things, eh?
Now
definitely some piss.
I know because
gels. Yeah.
I've touched my own triathlon, but I bet because people pee and the bikes get even stickier.
Yeah, even worse than that. Let's just leave it there. Yeah.
There's been some shit.
Oh,
Oh,
we can't use those devices anymore.
I'm sorry.
Chloroquine. Yeah.
Steve, you're gonna get like an email. I'm sorry.
No.
I've
Yeah,
shit on the
seriously,
race
like,
ranger.
even the little things that you don't really think about, like race stickers that we put on, the race
Yeah.
numbers, that's a big process to just produce those, to put them all on from race to race. So we're going to just eliminate putting the stickers on anymore. They're all just going to have a QR code that you already have your wristband with a QR code on it, and we're going to link the two together with a bip bip, and that's it. So you can have any device. It just gets allocated to you. The sticky patches that you use at the moment to stick the rubber on, that are pretty crappy. Like, they are crappy, to be honest. That the problem there was
They come off.
rubber. Yeah, they're useless. The rubber was a 3D printed rubber, and nothing would stick to it. So we had to get these special nano patches made, which are supposed to stick to them, and they kind of do, but then they probably don't most of the time. So we're going to have a new sort of rubber that basically is real grippy, and so you don't need to put those on every time. It's just whack it on and you're away.
Crazy glue.
Things like that, little steps like that just are going to make the scale up part doable, rather than like this impossible nightmare that everyone jumps to.
Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely make sure we get you back once we get to experience you a little bit more. Probably after some World Championship races, maybe they'll publicize that data of if that's like another opportunity to kind of do it. We'll see. Maybe Sam will suggest it at the pro briefing at Nice, and maybe they'll listen to him there.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, and really appreciate all your feedback over the years. All the other pros listening as well. It's been really helpful, and keep giving it to us. Hold us to a high standard, and thank you guys for your support. And Nick, it's always been cool to talk to you guys and pushing our cause. So we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you for taking care of us, buddy. You're doing the work
to you.
for all of us. We appreciate it.
Yes. Thanks
No
so
worries,
much, James.
and,
All right.
pleasure. See you at some races soon.
All right.
Sounds good.
Don't leave yet.
Yes.
Peace out, though.
Peace
All right. Thanks,
out.